Hello, this is John Spink. I'm a director of the Food Fraud Initiative at Michigan State University and an assistant professor in the College of Veterinary Medicine. And this is an overview, summary, of my presentation at the American Academy of Veterinary Nutrition, the annual symposium 2017. The overall presentation was animal and veterinary product fraud, and the two key questions, the key takeaways, are how to try to protect yourself and a 5-question survey. To begin, we're an academic institution and have a wide range of curriculum and courses. So the first one is a massive open online course, free open online to everyone. The first course is an overview offered twice a year, and the second one is an audit guide offered 3 times a year. We also have short course executive education. This is offered on-site at Michigan State, focused on industry or other decision makers, and these are 2 two-day courses. We also have online graduate courses. These are real Michigan State graduate courses offered online multiple times through the year. We have 5 courses that touch on food safety and food fraud in one way or another. And if you take 4 of those courses, that you can complete a graduate certificate in food fraud prevention. We believe this is a broad education base that leads to a good understanding of food fraud and food fraud prevention. If those credits are working for you and you like the courses, you can roll those into a Master's of Science in Food Safety at Michigan State. This is again completely online, and it is a real Michigan State Master's of Science degree. To begin with, we looked at food fraud and then defining animal and veterinary product fraud as a subset. Overall, food fraud is illegal deception using food for economic gain. It's any type of fraud for gain, and any type of fraud can lead to a health hazard. There's a different concept called food defense. While the motivation for food fraud is economic gain, for food defense, the motivation is traditionally harm or terror that could be economic harm for someone else, such as by a disgruntled employee. The effect of food fraud: there's always an economic threat, whether it's a consumer not getting the product they think they're getting, a retailer not selling the product they think they're selling, a brand owner, or even governments not getting appropriate tax revenue. From a public health standpoint, there's not always a threat, but there is always a vulnerability. And the vulnerability is that if bad guys are mishandling product, then we don't know if it's sterile or it's been expired, or if it's somehow dangerous. And if there is something like a species swapping, such as horse meat and beef, we can't recall and trace the horse meat because we don't even know it's in the product. So there's always a vulnerability. Occasionally there is a threat, and sometimes, such as melamine in pet food and other products, there's some very, very dangerous public health threats. There's a wide range of examples that we won't go into detail here. This is one key slide if you're trying to explain food fraud to someone, so please feel free to use it. You have free open access, copyright permission. Food fraud incidents. These are a modern set of incidents. We say modern to say recently, say within the last 10 years, 15 years, because there's food fraud incidents that have gone back to really the beginning of almost recorded history. Back to 1000 BC in the Song dynasty in China, there was stories of tea. And then throughout history, some of the very first food laws, including the U.S. Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906 and the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act in 1938, and even before that with some of the food purity laws in Germany and across Europe, were based on some types of fraud. But the modern incidents are, in 2004, Sudan red is a carcinogen colorant. It's used in paprika and other spices. It's an adulterant substance, and it's used to make it brighter color. And so this is something that consumers prefer. A key here is that this popped up occasionally, and this was a problem for recalls mainly, but it occasionally popped up, and so it got our attention. And as we're looking back over the history, we see this as an important beginning point, where we see this is something that was prevalent across industry. 2007 was melamine in infant formula and pet food. This was a big wake-up, and this was a transition point where these incidents were no longer just small incidents, and they were no longer small on an economic scale. They could be massive. And some of this type of fraud, these contaminants and adulterants, could be across entire supply chains. This really was a wake-up call when a lot of the research started. In 2012, there was horse meat and beef in the UK. And this was the single event that led really the food industry to realize that they must do something. They had to do something because this was catastrophic for many companies, and immediately several companies went out of business, some of the distributors or brokers. And in this case, some of the beef was a higher priced product, and a legitimate horse processing company commingled some of the horse meat in with the beef. And at this point, the horse meat was lower quality. And then in 2017, something we have that's still emerging is a Brazilian beef fraud. And there's a wide range of types of fraud. And one thing that's occurred here is that for many countries, they've shut down the import of all Brazilian beef. And this can make a massive impact across the marketplace. And then there's ongoing. There's a lot of different ones. From Peanut Corp of America selling product a new head bacterial contamination to honey smuggling, which is tax avoidance smuggling, stolen goods into market, and then even some other types of adulterant substances. So regarding pet food and animal and veterinary product fraud, there's starting to be an awareness of the issue and the topic. And here was an article from a short while back that we were quoted in looking at what's in pet food. So there's starting to be some interest. And I think that it's coming from this base focus in the food industry, and then that's leading food regulatory compliance, which is then leading on to other types of raw materials and ingredients, such as animal products that go into human food or the pet food itself. When we start to look at animal and veterinary product fraud as a specific subcategory, it's important to look at the subcategory because what we see here is that there's unique aspects to the supply chain, the monitors of the supply chain, the consumers, the fraudsters, just the entire fraud opportunity. So something we found very important at the very start is to define the topic broadly. So many people have an awareness of some type of fraud or another, but haven't really looked at the big picture here. So one of the first aspects is veterinary nutrition. So this is when a product is used, a feed maybe, as a treatment, such as a type of food that focuses on liver health versus kidney health or heart health. And so we assume that the nutritional content is what it says on the package. And then after an animal has used this product, then we make decisions on treatment based on the assumption that that nutritional content is what it says. Beyond that, veterinary medicine. This is something we might call counterfeit drugs, counterfeit medicine. So we know this as well, but this is also something that's a little bit farther out. But something to really think about, because beyond just nutritional treatment, think about a medicine treatment, where you think you're giving a patient 50 milligrams of something, but it could be 5 or none. And then you make a response, a treatment based on the expectation of that medicine. Beyond that, something maybe you haven't thought about is veterinary medical devices. These could be hard goods, consumables, sutures. They could be things that are used and reused and repackaged. They also could be either just not sterile, but also not of the quality that you expect. And when you start to get to implantable medical devices, such as replacement hips, then this gets to be it can be very, very catastrophic. And in the human medical device area, counterfeits are very well known. Veterinary testing. So this could be test kit fraud. So think about any type of product you're using to identify such as diabetes test strips, that can also throw off the process. And from the human side, there's definitely test kit fraud. Animal pet food, so dogs, cats, etc. Feed animal food. There's a different focus by the FDA and others when it comes to feed animal or animals that will become human food. And supplements as well. So this is looking at a wide range of things that we add to products. So these are all different areas that are fraud opportunity and where there's fraud in animal and veterinary product fraud. So we've been asked to create and support and conduct research on how to protect yourself, how to respond. So we've got a simple 5-question survey to start. First off, what is the product? And so we need to be aware as consumers of what we're buying and when we're in a situation that has a fraud opportunity. And this is for buying veterinary products, but this is for you as a consumer as well. What's the product? You need to be especially careful of product that you put in you, such as eating or injectable, on you, such as a cream or some type of treatment, or plug in the wall. This could be things that are electronics. For a home consumer, that would be things like Christmas tree lights, that you'd want to make sure that those Christmas tree lights were of the proper wiring. The wiring was proper, because if they were faulty or they were counterfeit, substandard, then they could catch on fire. Can you distinguish the quality? So would you recognize a variation in the quality of substandard or counterfeit product? So say it's a organic or a high premium scotch between a generic Scotch and a premium Scotch, would you be able to discern the difference there? And that's even harder when we're dealing with consumers or users, pets, that they can't communicate. So this is a key because there's a higher fraud opportunity in this case. Then do you have a supplier or retailer relationship? If there's a supplier that's local, that's been very well known, that's in business for a long time, has relationships with customers, then there's a lower fraud opportunity. Those companies, they build their business based on your trust, and that trust is very valuable. So the fraud opportunity would be lower. And can you confirm they've been in business for a long time if you're dealing with a new supplier? Then this is online shopping. We might say more anonymous shopping, where you don't really know the seller. And in some cases, this could be things like off an auction website, or even if you just search the internet to find a company. Very simple computer science technology is involved to make a website look pretty darn good. And there's times where websites can hijack other URLs or their website names. So sometimes you think you get an email that you think is from your bank, and it might not be. So with online shopping, it's not that online shopping is bad, but it's the way that we find the supplier and the way that we find a reputable source is the real key question. And then finally, complain. If you think something's wrong, complain to the retailer or the brand owner but also keep a sample. Because in the future, if you don't hear from them, then you have that product that you can try and sample another way. And actually, if you think through the process here, maybe that person selling you the product is the fraudster. So these are 5 questions that hopefully raise the awareness of things that could go wrong and your fraud opportunity. We have a lot of information on our website, and feel free to contact us. We're growing this as a field and looking for colleagues and others to work with. So I hope this has been helpful, and feel free to contact us for any reason. Have a great day.